Shots of Greenwich Park. You can see all the masses starting to line up, and as I always say, the largest queue outside of the queue for the start line is always the one for the Portaloos in Greenwich Park.
Again, the elites very well looked after. They don't have to worry about that. Kenzebi Dibaba is on the right-hand side of this start line. Really impressive debut, 2:18.05 in the Amsterdam Marathon in the autumn, but she is the 1500-metre world record holder. Some serious range from some of these athletes in this field. This is Safan Hassan, double Olympic champion over 5,000 and 10,000 in 2021. She said she's using today as the first step in exploring the marathon. Almaz Ayana was the fastest debutant in the marathon with her 2:17.20 in Amsterdam until that was bettered by Letisembet Gide in Valencia. Olympic champion Perez Chipchirchir is next to her, number 10 all-time in the marathon lists, 2:17.16. She took that gold medal at the Olympic Games ahead of her teammate Brigid Kosgei. It's the first time Brigid Kosgei and Perez Chipchirchir have faced each other since Sapporo in 2021. Last year, Yalemzef Yahalu became the youngest ever winner of the London Marathon. And she was the first Ethiopian to win in 7 years. She said her preparations have gone very, very well.
And Katrina McKinnon, the Irish athlete who still holds the Irish record, get our elite women underway in the TCS London Marathon. This is a stacked field. It's one of the hottest fields we've ever seen for a women's marathon on the roads, and we are in for an absolute treat, Hannah.
We are. You can see the athletes split across the road there in two groups. There's a lot of talk about the women's only world record here this morning in London. It's held at the moment by Mary Keitany, set that 6 years ago here on the streets of London, 2:17.01. There's been women getting very close to it in the last few years.
It's really important, and it's actually really tricky, particularly in London, because the areas are built up and you can sometimes lose signal on the watch as they go. And you know, we can see Steph Twell sat in there. I think that might be Alice Wright tucked in just behind her in the white cap in the hawker strip. And they'll be looking at their watches, but it's not always accurate. You know, technology's great these days. We have Garmin's and all different sorts of watch technology that we can go to, and I think we see someone struggling a little bit.
I think that's Brigid Kosgei already struggling. That is heartbreaking. Brigid Kosgei said she'd hurt her hamstring a little bit in preparations, but she was willing to step on the line today, but you just see the hobbling there from Brigid Kosgei. Perhaps it got a little bit cold in the warm-up, that hamstring, and it certainly does not look comfortable here for the world record holder Brigid Kosgei. And that's, I'm gutted, Lewis. I think
it's absolutely devastating. Yeah, it's really devastating. It surprises me that she's on the start line if it goes that early, but as you say, Hannah, it's cold out there. Maybe she did try it and warm up and it felt okay, but that is potentially the race favourite out, and that opens it up slightly. I mean, if you're a bookmaker, you couldn't have put money on anyone. I was thinking this morning when we looked at that lineup, how would the odds reflect what we see? And that is probably the pre-race favourite stood on the side streets of London, and it doesn't look good, but we were aware of that. You mentioned it this morning in breakfast to me, Hannah, about her carrying a hamstring niggle, but that is a real shame. She's given a smile on the wave though, so maybe she did know a little bit under the surface that things weren't right.
I think you know what, well, especially when you're the world record holder like Brigid Kosgei, you know what it takes to do the marathon. Back with the women's elite field, just making their way through round about mile 4. They might be coming up on there. You can see they're just sharing their drinks. There's drink stations for the elite athletes every 5 kilometres, or they'll have personalised drinks mixed absolutely to their preferences, and they'll work with nutritionists and physiologists figuring out the best mix of carbohydrates and electrolytes. You will see the athletes sharing as well, especially the pacemakers here. It's just, if you want to have a drink, that's a very good thing. Some of the pacemakers there just asking for a bit more space. We see so many more falls in these road races than you might expect, but there's a lot of fatigue and every athlete just trying to conserve as much energy as possible. When you chuck in drink stations, it can get a little bit hairy.
Yeah, we famously saw Mo Farah, struggling with his bottles one year in London. But it's not as easy as people think. You think of the speed that people are running at, and when they approach those stations, and then they've got to pick their own bottle out as well. They do mark them up. You can see on some of the bottles that the elite women they'll have tape around them. I know some people put straws on them and all sorts of different things, a little bit of graffiti on there so you can identify it. But when you're running towards those tables at pace, it's really hard not just to pick them up. As for the marathon, the current men's world record holder, he had an off day on Monday, it'd be fair to say. It shows it happens to the best, but we are absolutely delighted to have him here in London to be the official starter of our men's race this morning.
There is Emil Kress, based up in Leeds here in the UK. On his debut, picked up a European cross-country silver medal behind Jakob Ingebrigtsen in December. He's in good form. Kelvin Kiptum won Valencia out of nowhere. It's a bit of a surprise package. Great half marathon runner, but to debut in the third fastest time ever. Very impressive from the Kenyan. This is Kenenisa Bekele of Ethiopia. He's a phenomenal track and cross-country athlete. And people have been underwhelmed by his marathon career, which is mind-boggling when he's the second fastest of all time. This is Tamarat Tola of Ethiopia. He took the win at the World Championships in Oregon, and then personal best in Valencia, finishing fourth in that race. Last year's winner, Amos Kipruto, is up next. His teammate, Evans Chebet, successfully defended his Boston title on Monday. Can Amos Kipruto keep it going for the Two Running Club from Kenya? This is Sir Mo Farah taking wonderful applause from the crowd. Pretty handy personal best, that 2:05.11. If he's got any of that muscle memory, if you like, left in his legs, could we see a last good performance here from Sir Mo Farah? Typical of the London Marathon organisers, 4 of the 5 fastest marathon runners ever, and then they've gone and got the fastest one ever to start the race.
And we are underway in the men's and the masses elite race at the TCS 2023 London Marathon. You can see the bouncy style of Andy Butchart getting up the start line there. It shows how fast they have to go, Hannah, to get off that start line. You'll see all the club vests in the background as well as those elite vests, but it is one of the best sights in world running, the London Marathon mass start. That is your elite runners and the championship start in the shot currently, and then your mass.
Be interested to see Australian Brett Robinson down to be in that same group with Mo Farah. They have got a tiny kind of very elite group. Just the 2 of them have committed to running with Andrew Butchart and Shadrat Kimiming. They will be aiming for 2:05.30 pace, but they've got to just settle down at this stage and let the lead runners ease away ever so slightly. But the pace isn't that different. If anybody overcommits in this first group, I think they could be vulnerable for many of the chasing athletes.
And these elite men, we can see Kiptum is now back to business, sat behind those 3 pacemakers in the nice pink and yellow strips. Those bibs really nice and easy to identify for our pacers, and we can see Bekele is on the back of that group. We know Kenenisa is here. I don't think he's in the shape that he once was when he really went after that world record at the time that has now been moved forward by Eliud Kipchoge. But I was on the side streets of Berlin that day and watching Bekele attack that, but I don't think he's in that shape today, and you can already see him sat on the back of that group. And Kelvin Kiptum is the one paying close attention. I've got my eyes on Kipruto. I think it's a really interesting story. You know, his training partners, 1st and 3rd in Boston on Monday, clearly in good shape. You know, the manager of those athletes flew over to London. He was super keen to come and watch him here on the streets again in London. Could he do it again, Hannah?
I think he could. He's got the experience. I mean, Kelvin Kiptum for me is raw. We don't know an awful lot about him. What we do know, that fantastic 2:01 from Valencia, 3rd fastest all time. He actually ran the 2nd fastest half marathon. No, sorry, the fastest ever 2nd half marathon in a marathon. He closed faster than anyone else has ever closed. And Kipruto will be aware of that. And Valencia, that's one question I was going to ask you, Lewis. You're very experienced in the marathon scene. Conversion from Valencia to London, yeah, that's a phenomenally fast course. They get very good conditions. What would you expect the differential to be between those 2 courses?
Yeah, that is a really good question. The biggest difference for me is I do it on a bike, so I'm the one cheating usually. But it is good to go around and get a feel for the course and see how it is. It is exceptionally flat. The roads are perfect. And the biggest thing for me for Valencia is I was there from the Friday until the Monday, and every day you could have run a marathon there, it would have been perfect conditions. It's December the 3rd last year. They had those ideal conditions. Today is not bad in London. We do have a little bit of a breeze, but it's not too bad. But with the underpasses and the bridges in London, I think that adds a little bit more to it. So I would say from Valencia to here, the conversation I've had with the athletes who I coach who have also done the same is we're probably looking at about a minute, I think. If we say, okay, given those underpasses, given those little bit of the inclines that you have to take in and maybe the conditions, it could be about a minute differential, but we shall see.
Here's the chase pack at the moment, not all that far behind. We're just getting up to that first 5 kilometres here in the elite men's race, and they'll have to resist chasing that pack. It is too early to tip yourself into the red. There is Sir Mo Farah of Great Britain leading the British Championships at the moment. Brett Robinson of Australia could have a wonderful ride here, could really benefit from the atmosphere that's going to be generated for Mo Farah and the pacemaking as well, and around that Australian record pace today. It would be wonderful if we could see Mo Farah underneath that 2:08, but that's the lead athletes. The other pack down the road, 14:30 through the first 5 kilometres.
Yeah, and back to that front pack, but I'm hoping that Andrew Butchart was just saying to Mo, just calm down a little bit here, because it's already quick. We can see them chasing this pack down at the front, and here's Hassan.
Hassan just looking a little bit uncomfortable. I was watching on one of our other screens here we've got available to us. They've just gone through a drink station here. It is incredibly interesting. Sifan Hassan has been observing Ramadan this month. She doesn't really take on drinks in competitions anyway. Of course, she's traditionally a track runner, and it's done some phenomenal half marathons, but it's done those without drinks. And her and her coaching team have really been trying to work with Sifan Hassan to say, you've got to take a drink on board. Now look, the other women around her are discarding bottles at this point. Sifan Hassan is not holding one. And when you've got an athlete that doesn't like taking on drinks, that is fine, but they've got to do it at this stage. We do think she has been collecting drinks, but it's going to be really interesting to watch. Like I say, she's been trying to learn how to do drinks. They're not been doing drinks through Ramadan because she's been observing that. That would have been a large period of the end of her build-up here for London. But with the conclusion of Ramadan on Thursday, we will see Sifan Hassan take on drinks during this competition. London Marathon have actually put together some really great advice for the mass participation athletes as well on how you could best prepare for the London Marathon. While she said she did have 2 or 3 weeks to prepare, but Boston Marathon's very hilly. I think Jep Karui must have done some really difficult training, and then perhaps a relief here to be on a flat course. Now, is that a grimace from Sifan Hassan? She's clutching her hip. Is this just a stretch? A bit of cramp in the quad there for Sifan Hassan. That's not good. We're just passing the 19-kilometre mark here. Cramps are not uncommon at all in the marathon, but 19 kilometres is pretty early to start having issues. This could be a nightmare for Sifan Hassan. She was being very open in media. She said a while ago, will I defeat the marathon, or will the marathon defeat me? And she repeated similar sentiments in the press conferences in the last couple of days, clearly really struggling with her left hip there. She said she's been nervous the whole build up to this. Could she even finish? She said this was an experiment as well. She very much wants to do a track season, those World Championships in Budapest this summer, but was interested and intrigued to try out the marathon distance. But Lewis, you work with people in the marathon. If you start getting a cramp, stomach cramp, maybe that's one thing, but that looks much more like a muscle cramp from Hassan very early in the race. At this level, I believe right now Hassan should be thinking about stepping off, saving herself for another day, not causing too much damage. She's clearly out of the race. It's going to be really hard for her to get back on it. That race is absolutely stacked at the front. There's a big group of them. It's not like there's somebody out there solo that potentially could come back to her. To me, it looks like it could be a little bit of ITB as well. The ITB band down towards the knee. She on the way home, but hopefully
you know, hopefully she's fine and she can run it off, but maybe she might want to think about just stepping off.
You can see the pace that lead group are moving at. We saw Sifan Hassan stop a couple of times to stretch, and that has just widened up that gap. And Hassan's got a choice now to make. Does she complete the race and a marathon experience? She probably doesn't want to risk an injury at this stage. She is targeting that track season, slightly pushing up onto the bridge. 64.58 through 20 kilometres. Many of the main competitors in there. Sifan Hassan, the first casualty at the moment. She has taken her 20-kilometre drink. That's good to see. She will be really, really hoping that hip cramp or whatever she's dealing with here, quad hip, just starts to ease off. Because that's the sort of thing, if that happened in training, you stop straight away. You gotta go, not messing with that. But in a race scenario, it's a different kettle of fish.
Well, what's really interesting, Hannah, is she's right near the Elite Athlete Hotel now, and that maybe play on her mind. Do I step off now? We saw Mo do it a couple of years ago when he was pacemaking. It's the perfect place to step off, so that might be going through her head. But we can see Mo as we speak, and Butchie at the front there, and Brett Robinson looking super cool. Hat was probably a wise choice today with the rain. I had that discussion with a few people this morning about, maybe put that cap on. You can see the elite men just being a little bit careful. We spoke about those shoes being a little bit higher. The stack height is higher these days. That makes them a little bit more unstable. They don't have as much grip as they used to because they're designed to go super, super quick. So they're going to have to be careful around here, around the Cutty Sark, because that does look quite slippery underfoot. You can see it's a lot smoother than the road, that surface around there. It's not really designed to be ran on at this speed, so they're going to have to be a little bit careful as they go around the Cutty Sark and just make sure that there's no accidents around there. But that's the first landmark for the men ticked off. They'll be coming, well, actually they've gone through 10k, haven't they? If you are just tuning in, you will notice Sifan Hassan is not in that group any longer, and she has actually stayed on the road, which is good to see. So hopefully it was just a little bit of cramp and she has pushed through that. But the one we know about who will not be joining the road again is Brigid Kosgei. The current world record holder is off the road. She stepped off within half a mile. She clearly wasn't right. She felt that early. She made that sensible decision to step off, and she will be back to fight another day at another marathon, and hopefully here in London in the coming years. But the big players are still there. Dababa's still there. Jepchirchir at the front with that nice style leaning forward. Korea in there as well. And that can just make you cool down a little bit. Now, well, this is interesting, isn't it? We thought Hassan was gone. She was holding the hip, holding the quad. Here's me saying maybe she should even step off, and now that gap isn't as big as it was. Is she even closing it down? So Hassan battling through. Be interested to see what goes on in the latter stages. If she was struggling with things like cramp early on, will that come back to bite her? But we have had people drop off that lead group. The lead women are away, but unfortunately it is starting to crumble. So it's the first signs, Hannah, that we're starting to see that elite women's group break up.
And here's what we'd expect this time in the race, and that is Almaz Ayana as well of Ethiopia just starting to drop off the back of the group. When she won Amsterdam, that was the fastest debut, 2 hours 17:20. That was surpassed by Tessenbet Gide in Valencia. But Almaz Ayana, could she be the next casualty of this lead group and give Sifan Hassan something to aim at? That's a brilliant resurgence there from Sifan Hassan, and I don't know whether it means this group is slowing, if they're settling slightly. And the drop off there of Ayana implies that the pace has still been your high quality here at the front, and that they are pushing on.
Now in the second half, which is all eyes on the elite men's field. I think Bekele maybe just starting to struggle. You can see him playing around with his vest at the back. You can see he's maybe 5 or 10 metres off the back of that group. Has a quick check of the watch, and maybe that's the first sign that the great Kenenisa Bekele is just struggling a little bit. That was a little bit dangerous, wasn't it? Kiptum apologising to the group, threw his water bottle down, and Gebre Selassie at the back of that group nearly tripped on that water bottle. So a few words to the front, maybe a little bit of inexperience there from Kiptum, and he is apologising. Obviously nobody intentionally does that, to throw water bottles on the floor, and it's something you've got to discard of safely. But it was a little bit dangerous, but thankfully no fallers over that. It's something course officials and marshals are so good at, clearing the course for the rest of the runners. But it's all part and parcel of the marathon and part of that puzzle. Yeah, 2:07:31 that record. A new Oceanian record. Halfway for the men then. Kelvin Kiptum right at the front, 61.40. So 2:03.20 pace at the halfway, and that is about bang on actually. You know, they weren't asking for much quicker than that. That was in and around what they're looking for, and you can see the pacemakers having a chat. And is that maybe the first signs of the conversation of, is this pace okay? Do we need to pick it up? How is everybody feeling? And Kiptum is the one who's barking the orders. Now, we did see that fast finish in Valencia. He did go super quick in the second half, and now he's asking the question to pacemaker number 2, have you got anything? If you're watching at home, the pacemakers are contracted to go to halfway if they can, and then from there it's about getting as far as they possibly can. So the next point for them will be 25k, hopefully 30k. I mean, as far as they possibly can, but you can see they are starting to struggle now with the pace, and he is raising it. I think, Hannah, and I'm sure you'll add to this, I think Kipton's had a word there and said, come on, let's get to work.
Yeah, that's Bernard Ngono of Kenya, pacemaker number 2, just saying to everyone, keep going. You'll be giving them some words of support there. But pacemaker number 2, Ngono, just having to step aside here. He might not have much more in his legs, or is he just going to tuck in and take a break? But he's leaving Daniel Mateko of Kenya at the front, pacemaker number 3, checking his watch. Is a phenomenal athlete, 58.26, his half marathon best. So when you come through in 61.40, you'd hope he's got another couple of, maybe another 5k in him. Daniel Mateko, he's actually 8th in the Oregon World Championships last summer in the 10,000 metres as well.
Yeah, just looking at that visual of the women's race, you can see the puddles on the ground now. Hannah, it is coming down in the capital. The men's cadence was certainly picking up. I think they've picked up the pace, and the women's pace may be picking up because we're starting to see gaps. But can you believe it? Hassan is right on the back of that group as people drop off, including, for the first time, Dababa starting to see a little bit of a gap from that lead group. Yahalu's still in there. Jepchirchir still forcing the pace. They grab their drinks bottles nice and safely from that table there. Nagurtu's still in there as well. Jep Karui in there, but Dababa is off the back of that group. But fascinatingly, Hassan has managed to get herself back on that group. Now, here's me saying she probably should drop out. It's probably the worst call ever. And she's now chasing people down. That would be, for me, one of the greatest comebacks of all time in a major marathon.
This would be really, really brilliant. And I think Jepchirchir, she's really pushing at the front. She's being aggressive. Sometimes we see moves like that, and then you see a drink station and go, okay, maybe makes sense. It might have just, some athletes really do like to spread the field out into the drink station, have a better look at their drink. But if Jepchirchir is on the charge, I hope for entertainment's sake, Jepchirchir just holds off for another 5 minutes, gives Hassan a chance to get back in the picture, because when you've made that effort,
it's still coming. So she's reining people in as they come off the back of that group. I dare say it's too big of a gap, but I also said earlier that she probably should have stepped off the course, so I might as well say I dare say it's too big, because then she'll probably close it and we'll have the race of our life in our hands.
Yeah. Well, there's Judith Correa as well, having a little bit of a resurgence here. She was 4th place last year, and could Judith Correa and Sifan Hassan work together, that would be really nice. Sifan Hassan, for me, the Dutch woman, moving a lot better than she was. We saw her some 45 minutes ago now, but significantly struggling. I really am surprised to see that something like that, sort of muscular kind of tension or pain at 61 minutes, apologies, for that to be able to calm down. I think Sifan Hassan might be pretty lucky.
This is the beauty of women's race, but Kelvin Kiptum, I believe at halfway he had a word with the pacemaker and he said, let's get this moving a little bit. You can see it's now, rather than bunched, it's becoming a little bit more single file. It's almost like a track race, isn't it, Hannah, where they're getting in prime position, they don't want to be wasting energy. Camara throws the gloves away, it's race mode, the hats come off. It's almost like it's made. It's like, we're going to up the pace, right, hats off, gloves come off, it's now race time. 74 minutes on the clock, we've gone through halfway, we're going to approach the business end. 15-16 miles. Camara looks good. The NN running team have a couple of runners in there. It'll be interesting to see if they work together. You can see Legessi still in there as well. Gabriel Selassie on the back of that group. Tola's still in there. So all still to play for. Tura just in the orange strip. He looks pretty comfortable. Hat hasn't come off for him yet. Be interesting to see if that comes off. So Still cold out there on the streets of London, but warming up by the looks of things.
Tura is an interesting athlete to watch. Had a brilliant last few marathons. Won Chicago in 2021, second in Paris, sixth in Oregon at the World Championships, and then second in Chicago last autumn. Unsurprisingly, no races since for the Ethiopian who's been resting up, Sefui Tura. But he has had a quiet race, and I do look for these athletes that have just kept out of trouble. Amos Kipruto, we've always been able to see him. It's almost like he does not want to let Kelvin Kiptum get any sort of a jump on him. The defending champion checking his watch as well. 1 hour 15 for the men. It's moving at a fast and furious pace. I'm sure it's going to continue.
As we go back to the lead women, it is really hotting up. Is that Rainbow Roar they're going through now? That's the LGBTQIA plus community making some noise down there. I believe Jeanette Quachi will be down there later on the microphone for the BBC. After this, they'll go for this final drink, and you can see it's Perish Jepchirchir, 1:53.40 at 35k. Ella Mimagurtu in there. Last year's winner, Yahalu, sat in there looking comfortable. She's in the NN running strip. And then just sat right on the back of that, and I think has kind of, again, kept her cards quite close to her chest and is looking pretty good in there. Jep Karui just comes round to the outside, the tall figure in the Adidas strip, and she hasn't done much at all, and we haven't mentioned her much at all, have we, Hannah? Way to watch the marathon, wouldn't it? Go down the boat, nice bit of classic English cup of tea, maybe a bit of afternoon tea on there. Bit of champagne to celebrate for our winners, who will have champagne on ice at the finish. Can you believe it? Hassan has made her way back. Hannah England sat next to me celebrating like I told you so. Lewis, what were you thinking, saying that she might step off? I just can't believe how well she looks now compared to what we've seen earlier, around about the hour mark. So it was about an hour from now. She was stood on the side of the road, literally coming to a stop, stretching off her hips, stretching off her glute, in a pigeon stretch position, really struggling with her bottles, really struggling with muscles, and now, if anything, she looks one of the best, if not the best in this group. You can see the others just starting to struggle at the back, and Hassan is here, and they will know that her presence is there, because let's be honest, she is the fastest in this field when it comes to an outright sprint finish. No one will be able to live with her if she turns those afterburners on. So somebody's going to have to start to think, how can we get rid of Sifan Hassan again?
So you can see the rain is coming down here in Birmingham and in London, and Kelvin Kiptum has piled on the pressure here. Now, we've got a few screens up here in front of us. Kelvin Kiptum missed his drink at the last drink station. He went to go for it, didn't quite connect with the bottle, and then he almost kicked on. It was almost like there was a frustration. It certainly wasn't an intentional miss, but he's been looking over his shoulder now for the last 2 or 3 minutes. This is very similar to what we saw in Valencia. What I loved in Valencia at this point is we saw Kelvin Kiptum take off his watch and hurl it into the crowd. I've got no idea whether that's the same watch he's managed to get back. And after a performance like that in Valencia, he could probably afford a new one. But I think it's what I love about elite marathon running. For so many people that attempt the marathon, it's just about surviving, isn't it? And it's eking out the perfect pace of what you can do. It's not racing. But on the elite side, what we see is real, pure racing. And Kelvin Kiptum has laid his cards out here, has tried to see if anybody else can respond. And at the moment, it has blown apart this men's field.
Absolutely blown apart. I mean, that gap is opening as well. He keeps looking round almost to see, am I getting the gap that I want from the effort that I'm putting in? Because I'm putting in a surge, and that should then reflect a big gap. And he's kind of getting that confirmation by looking over his shoulder. I caught a cheeky glimpse of Scott Overall on the side of the course there, works for London Marathon. He'll have been impressed by that move from Kiptum, but one of our greatest British marathon runners, certainly the greatest British debut. It's a cracking debut Scott had, but Kiptum is now well and truly clear, and he has the road to himself, as he did in Valencia. The only thing that I would say here, Hannah, is this is an early move. It is a really early move. to come away from Canary Wharf. He's still checking his watch. In Valencia, that move he made with the watch, as much as it might have been for the cameras and whatever, it was almost like a confidence of, I know I've got this. Whereas we've just seen him there look at his watch, almost a double check. Hang on, what's that pace? You know, I want to make sure. And there's a little bit of a grimace on the face, and I don't think that's a confident look over the shoulder. Probably wrong, given my call on Hassan earlier. But I think that's a little bit of a check to say, I'm hoping to open up the gap, and I want that gap to be significant, but I'm not so sure that this is a bit of a move too soon. We will soon find out.
I'm loving the brave commitment from Geoffrey Kamworor of Kenya. He's the only athlete. He's lifted his pace as well. He's so experienced. He's not gone with Kiptum. Perhaps felt that was too much, but the Kenyan behind in second place at the moment, the white and red strip there, has given himself every chance of picking up the pieces if Kelvin Kiptum has got this wrong. Now, we were talking before we came on air, Lewis, about the course, and you almost said Canary Wharf, it is sheltered, it's noisy, you get excited, and then you get into this quiet stretch here and you think, that's it, I'm nearly on the embankment, but you're not. They're just around they've gone past 30 kilometres now, but you did say it's very, very tempting at this stage in the London Marathon to think you've nearly got the job done, and to make a move like this, and this is exactly the territory that you said you think people can sometimes get it wrong.
Yeah, we talked about it, and we spoke about that downhill section out of Canary Wharf and coming out of the noise and getting a little bit excited, and then almost kind of putting all your cards out there. And is it just that little bit too early? I mean, we're looking at, another 30 minutes worth of running here. Now, the cadence looks good, but for me, the worrying look is how much he keeps checking over his shoulder. If it was me, I'd take one look and then I'd be gone, but I'm not a marathon runner. I've not been in this situation. Certainly, I'm not comparing myself to Kelvin Kiptum, but I just think that gap now isn't growing. Kamworor, and he's still looking behind. He still looks over, and I just think, just look forward, just go forward. But we know he's a bit of a character. He's a bit quirky. He's certainly super, super quick. That debut was the fastest ever debut in Valencia. He absolutely tore it apart in the second half there, and he's tearing the field apart here, coming out of Canary Wharf. However, will he be able to sustain that pace?
Back with the women's lead group, Nagatu and Hassan side by side. Hassan surely just chilling out, just gathering herself for a sprint. They're alongside the embankment here in London. Sheila Chepkouri perhaps still struggling slightly at the back of this group. Olympic champion Peres Jepchirchir has been on the front pushing for so long. Sifan Hassan, a true track running star, running right up the back there of Peres Jepchirchir. She knows how to stalk an athlete in front of her. But for me, Sifan Hassan looks absolutely fine. She looks better than she's looked at any stage in this race. Haven't quite caught a glimpse of Yalamzefia Halu. Can only assume she's still in this group. Nagatu, there she is. Yalamzefia Halu and Peres Jepchirchir, they have been going side by side, but there's been no massive moves here. What do we think we've got left? Around about 8 minutes in this women's race. I do think Sheila Chepkouri has been battling her way onto the back of this group time and time again. Surely she can't get on the back for a fourth or fifth time. You might be down to 4 women in this elite women's field.
Yeah, this is that section where they make that swing round onto the embankment before they start seeing landmarks such as Big Ben in front of them. Not so sure if they've been under that underpass yet near Blackfriars. They may have just done that. I'm not sure if we missed that, but that's a little bit of a tough section when they go down that bank and then up the other side and out of that little tunnel, that little bridge. Now just starting to pick their own racing line. That's interesting. Is this a drink, do you think? Yeah, it is. So Jepchirchir just thinking, I need that drink as well. Oh, now is that Hassan? There's the inexperience. That's the inexperience that we spoke about. She's never been in this situation before. She darts across the road, realising the experience of Jepchirchir just making her way across smoothly towards that drink station, and look at the time that's been lost. What I would say, Hannah, is she's made it back up really quickly. So that says one thing to me. She's clearly still feeling good.
2k to go, and there's a woman who traditionally doesn't like taking drinks in a race, and she just darted across the road, and now she's offering. Yahalu saying, no mate, we've got 2k left to go in a marathon, what are you playing at? Yahalu and Nagatu really choosing just to totally ignore that drink station. Jepchirchir and Hassan, a quick hit of some sugar or something like that could make a change at this point, perhaps. Says Jepchirchir. They've got to go, and they've got to get this pace going, because Sifan Hassan has got speed for days. Alemo Muguruza is the first woman to break. She has upped their pace. They're probably around about 800 metres to go now. Muguruza with an injection of pace, and last year's champion, the youngest ever winner of the London Marathon, Yalam Zerfi is not going to make it a fairy tale defence. She is the first casualty of this group, but Alemo Muguruza, that seemed like a spurt of speed. Now she's just backed off ever so slightly. Jep Kirui closed that gap and short this group down to 3, and has surely got the Ethiopian on the podium. But can she have another burst of speed here? Sifan Hassan grimaces for the first time. Here is the first of the tight right-hand turns. They've all navigated it absolutely fine. If they look over to the left-hand side, they will see Buckingham Palace, but they might not have any energy or any focus on anything except the bodies around them. Alemo Muguruza again pushing to the front. She was 3rd here last time round. She won Seville last year, and she is having a bid to win the London Marathon. She's been running marathons for 6 years, Alemo Muguruza, under 2:20 for the first time last year, but surely the charge is going to come from Sifan Hassan. They're going to pass the 200-metre mark to go, and that is very comfortable territory for the Dutch woman, Sifan Hassan. She's cut off there a bit by Jepchirchir. Alemo Muguruza tries to kick again, but here goes Sifan Hassan, the track specialist, on her marathon debut. We knew she had speed to turn on when she was ready. What a day for Sifan Hassan. Drama around about an hour in with a hip niggle, and yet she's clawed her way back into this group. She looks as surprised as the rest of us. Sifan Hassan, on her marathon debut, takes the title on the streets of London. 2:18:33, shock all over her face. What a performance, and what a day. Could this be the start of a marathon career for Sifan Hassan? She was intimidated but curious, and she has come away with the win in a high quality field. She has beaten some of the best women marathoners in modern times, and she looks absolutely delighted.
Wasn't she for those World Championships, so that might just secure her a spot on that plane to Budapest in the summer. Here he is, Kelvin Kiptum. He's looking good under that pass that we talked about. I think that's Blackfriars Bridge, where you come out the other side and you really do then come onto embankment, and he looks focused. He looks in the zone. He's got 1 hour 52 on the clock, around about 10 minutes worth of running left. He's absolutely obliterated the field in the second half. They were all together for a long time, particularly over Tower Bridge, but he was the one keen. He was the one saying to the pacemakers, come on, let's move this on. And when he got to Canary Wharf, which is a distant memory, he turned the afterburners on, and he has not looked back, although he did look back quite a lot, didn't he, really? But he has been head down once he got that gap, and it's all eyes on the finish now.
I wonder if Kelvin Kiptum was just checking, is anyone coming with me? Because if you've got someone in your coattails and you're being a pacemaker for them, does that change what you do? Do you step aside and try and work together? Because you don't want to just do all the work for someone and pull them along with you. And I think once Kelvin Kiptum realised he was going to have no more company here on the streets of London, he stopped looking back. He hasn't looked as nervous. And there's not quite
things into perspective. The fastest marathon we've ever had in an official race is Eliud Kipchoge's 2:01.9, set in Berlin in 2022. Then Kenenisa Bekele is the second fastest man behind Kipchoge in 2:01.41. The man you see on your screens, Kelvin Kiptum, he is the third fastest marathon runner of all time, having ran 2:01.53 in Valencia. But the question is, Hannah, where will he be at the end of play today? Will he still be 3? Will he be number 2? Will he be number 1?
Kelvin Kiptum has built momentum fantastically well in this second half. He was very patient. He egged on the pacemakers. But this man is simply phenomenal in the latter stages of a marathon. He has chipped away at those times, at those splits. He's underneath Kipchoge's course record split at 40k. He was just outside the world record split. But it seems as though Kelvin Kiptum is gaining momentum with every step. What has he got left in these closing few stages stages. He's past 600 metres to go. If he looks up, he's going to see Buckingham Palace, one of the best landmarks here on the streets of London. He's been past all the sights and sounds that London has to offer. The crowds have roared him down the streets. Kelvin Kiptum is converting a fantastic debut in Valencia, the world's best ever debut, 2:01.53, into a London Marathon victory. But where will he finish on the all-time standings? Round about 2 hours and 30 seconds as he swings round with 385 yards to go. This is a phenomenal run from Kelvin Kiptum. Surely he's just going to miss the world record. 2:01.09 is too big a ask for Kelvin Kiptum at this stage. That's the bike getting waved aside, not Kelvin Kiptum, as this time he comes around the corner. He's going to be close to 200 metres to go. He's going to surely just miss Eliud Kipchoge's world record. That is the mark of Kenenisa Bekele, 2:01.41, the second fastest time of all time. That will go. Kelvin Kiptum, what a man. This is his second ever marathon. The Kenyan athlete was great over half marathon. He's run 58 minutes over that distance a few times, but that run in Valencia was fantastic. And Kelvin Kiptum is backing that up and some here on the streets of London. He's grimacing, he's gritting his teeth, he is giving everything to get towards this finish line. 2:01.26 or so. That is the second fastest marathon time ever. And he's obliterated Eliud Kipchoge's course record by over a minute. Kelvin Kiptum, what a superstar. Surely we are looking at a man that could challenge that world record of Eliud Kipchoge's, and he has given everything. Look at that. What a way to run a marathon.
Wow. Wow. It wasn't on at halfway. By the time we got to Canary Wharf, it was starting to look a little bit more special. We questioned whether it was too soon. He was obviously feeling good, and that sprint finish at the end, was there a little bit more in the tank? Well, we'll find out the next time this man lines up over a marathon. But look at those celebrations. Kelvin Kiptum, you are the second fastest man in history.